I love Viper at Six Flags Magic Mountain. It's a monster aero looper that stands 188 feet tall and has 7 inversions, 3 loops, a batwing, and 2 corkscrews. Magic Mountain has done an amazing job keeping this coaster running as smooth as possible, and I think it pulls some of the best forces in the park. I'm not alone in my Viper fandom, but it's still a small group. Most people see this as outdated and painful, and will flock over to the other great modern coasters in the park. This is the one coaster that you can guarantee will be a walk-on. I think that in the near future, the park will see the expenses of operating it outweighing the benefits of having it open, and it'll bite the dust, leaving a huge plot of land to fill. And today, I'm gonna look at what can fill it. These are the top contenders to replace Viper. In this series, I only look at realistic options. That means that first and foremost, I look at the measurements of the land and see what can actually fit. And then you have to consider the other coasters in the park to see what the park can use and what may seem redundant. Though with Magic Mountain getting West Coast racers, the whole redundancy thing doesn't seem to apply here. Finally, you have to consider who owns the park and what manufacturers they work with. The first 2 episodes of this series were for Cedar Fair parks, who have a lot more options available to them because of the way they do business. Six Flags is the discount chain, and that excludes a lot of manufacturers right off the bat. There's not a great chance that they'll get a Mach, Intamin, or B&M because of the cost, and they will not work with Gerstlauer because of the bad blood over the new Texas Giant accident. I don't want to necessarily exclude those manufacturers though. After all, Magic Mountain is their flagship park, and if they were to splurge and spend a little bit more than usual, it would be at this park. Viper's plot is long and skinny, 713 feet at its longest and 244 feet at its widest, which is where the layout juts out for the batwing. So unlike the last episode with Nighthawk, we'll be looking at rectangular layouts rather than square ones. This long and skinny plot would have been a great place for the Raptor that the park was supposed to get for 2021. And we know based on some leaked documents that it's going to be basically the same as Jersey Devil at Great Adventure, and would start in Gotham City where Green Lantern was, and stretch across Tidal Wave all the way near Justice League. This is 613 feet long, which fits in Viper Spot with 100 feet to spare, but since this is already planned for the Gotham and Metropolis area, we can scratch that idea. It seems like a better option for this area would have been the Power Splash or an Intamin water coaster, since they already had the Tidal Wave pool to work with. And there's no water over by Viper. If they wanted to landscape the area and add a pool over there, the Mach Power Splash is 514 feet long, giving them 199 feet to spare, which would allow them to put that model with the loop. The Intamin water coasters are also made for this area. If you look at speed and divertical, they're 862 feet long and 202 feet wide. So a little on the long side, but not too bad. They could easily tweak the layout to make it fit. I know that Mach and Intamin are not on top of Six Flags' list, but these models are not nearly as pricey as a multi-launch or a Hyper. I thought of 3 other coasters that the park could use in their lineup: a B&M wing coaster, an SNS Freespin, and an SNS Access. We know that a wing coaster with a custom layout could work on a long skinny plot. Just think of how Gatekeeper goes out over the park entrance and comes back practically in a straight line. The Freespin is perfect for a long skinny plot, and the Access coaster could be designed to fit on a rectangle or a square plot. But then I consider Viper's neighbor, X2. This has riders on both sides of the track, just like the wing and the Freespin, and it's just about as wacky as the Access. I don't know if Magic Mountain would embrace this idea of putting 2 weird coasters right next to each other, or if they would try to avoid it. That being said, the wing coaster would be expensive, but not necessarily out of the question. The Freespin may bring back memories of the dreadful Green Lantern, even if it's not sitting on the same plot of land, but I could definitely see the Access going here. Six Flags loves working with SNS, and I would be surprised if the first Access coaster did not end up at a Six Flags park somewhere. Magic Mountain is about to have 20 coasters after the Raptor, so they don't have a lot of gaps in their lineup. This makes choosing a replacement for Viper even harder. How awesome would it be to have a dueling inverting GCI? Yes, they have Apocalypse, yes, they have Twisted Colossus, but apparently Six Flags likes to combine 2 existing rides to make a new one. Plus, Six Flags has not put in a wooden coaster since Apocalypse in 2009. They probably figured out that the cost to maintain them over time offsets the savings up front, so they've been staying away. I'd love to see it, but it's not gonna happen. Moving on. One unique coaster that would definitely fill a gap at Magic Mountain is a Mock Ride's Big Dipper, like Lost Gravity at Wallaby Holland. This has a very small and square plot of land, at 287 by 175 feet, which would fit with tons of room to spare, but a more linear custom model would be fun. I couldn't find a price tag on this or the other Big Dipper, Dynamite in Germany, but I imagined that this wouldn't be too crazy expensive. Some of you may have heard that Magic Mountain was supposed to get an Intamin prefab after El Toro went to Great Adventure, but the company's financial collapse cut that budget down and we ended up with Apocalypse. Let's pretend that Six Flags falls into a money pit and decides to pay for another prefab for Magic Mountain. This plot would be really great for it. T-Express has the right width, but it's a little long at 795 feet, and El Toro extends well beyond the footprint at 1,050 feet by 343 feet. But obviously, they could contour it to fit. Never gonna happen, but ever since I rode Toro in 2008, I was hoping and praying that it would find its way to Magic Mountain. And despite my own personal efforts, I'll just have to go to Jersey to ride it. This one may seem a little far-fetched, but I don't think it's out of the question. The Mock Ride's Hypercoaster. DC Rivals cost 30 million Australian back in 2017, and that converts to 21.5 million US dollars. Yes, it's on the upper end of Six Flags' budget, and probably well beyond it. It would be different enough from Goliath, which was pretty much built to be the world's tallest coaster at the time, while this Mock Hyper would be right around the 200-foot mark. It would also be a lot more aggressive than Goliath. For a park like Magic Mountain, maybe Six Flags would do it. DC Rivals does stretch to a little more than 1,000 feet in length, and Hypercoaster in Turkey also cracks the 1,000-foot mark, with 472 feet in width. I think it could fit here with a more compact layout. Another coaster in the same price range is the B&M Dive, a model that's been rumored for Magic Mountain for years. Six Flags has never installed a dive, probably because they're so expensive. Valraven costs between $20 and $25 million, and it has a layout that seems to be made for Viper's plot. It definitely fits lengthwise at 622 feet, and it exceeds it a little on the width side, with 360 feet. I think it's the perfect plot of land for a dive coaster, but with the addition of Hang Time at Knott's and Emperor at SeaWorld, the whole vertical drop novelty may not be so impressive. This would have made a lot more sense several years ago, but not so much now. So far, I've introduced a lot of ideas and shot most of them down for various reasons. Up to this point, by far the most likely candidate would be an Axis coaster. But I have one more contender, and I think this one is not only the best option, it's the most practical. This is the Vekoma Bermuda Blitz. You may know it as Let Coaster at Legendia. It sits on a tiny plot of land, 314 feet by 260 feet. It cost 12 million euros back in 2017, or a little more than 14 million US dollars. It's a traditional sit-down coaster with inversions, which would replace what the park is losing with Viper, but it would be a much more modern, sleek, smooth, and better overall experience. I don't know if Sansei would allow Vekoma to take on this job in America, since they seem to be building all of these extreme coasters over in Europe and Asia, but I don't see the downside from a coaster enthusiast standpoint. The only hang-up with the park that I can think of is that the ride would not be that marketable. It's not the biggest, fastest, or loopiest or anything like that. I think people would love the ride, but from a marketing standpoint, it's hard to imagine how they'll get people excited for it. So that's all I have for what could replace Viper at Magic Mountain. Let me know what you think could go on this plot, in your wildest dreams or in reality, and maybe you can see it being replaced with something other than a coaster. So let me know what you think in the comments below, and don't forget to drop a like, and subscribe if you haven't done so already, and I'll see you guys all next time.